Hello and thanks for joining me today. I'm in the workshop again and I'm working on my Bonneville T140. I've been servicing the front brake system. I've got all the brakes off and what have you, and that's in a separate video if you want to watch that. I've been stripping down the master cylinder and the front brake caliper and replacing all the seals and everything, so I have made a separate video on that. But whilst I've got the front wheel off and the front ending bits, I thought I might as well service the front suspension, because I've not actually done anything with that since I bought the bike, so I don't know when the oil was last changed, and the oil seals are weeping slightly, so I thought I might as well strip them down, replace the oil seals, the fork seals, and refill the oil so I know the front end's good when I put the brakes back together. So if you'd like to join me, then follow along. So before I start here, I just want to make a disclaimer. I am in no way making myself out to be an expert, and this is not meant to be a definitive how-to video. I'm just inviting you to follow along with me as I do this work on my bike. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm not a professional mechanic, and I'm not claiming any particular expertise or saying that the way I do it is the way that you should do it or the only way to do it. You know what I mean. Just putting in a disclaimer there. Okay, let's get on with it. So I've got the front brake caliper off at the moment, so I've just got the brake pipe tied up out the way there. To get the fork springs out, to take the forks apart, I'm going to leave the mudguard on just at the moment, leave the front mudguard on until I've got the forks disassembled. It's just easier, it holds everything steady, and then when I'm happy, I've got them apart, then I'm going to take the mudguard off. But they've got these plastic caps on the top which just screw off, and then there's an Allen key underneath for actually unscrewing the plug at the top, and then I can take the springs out. Now I may have to remove the handlebars to get to that. I'll see how I get on, but I think I'm going to have to take the handlebars off, in which case I'll just loosen the clamps, these P clamps that hold the handlebars on, loosen those off, lift them back, obviously put something on to protect the paintwork on the tank. So 9/16 nut here that holds this handlebar P clamp on. So I'm just going to undo that on both sides, then I can very gently and carefully lift the handlebars back out the way. Then I'll be able to get to this nut and remove that and the fork springs. That's loose. Got a little ratchet ratchet spanner here, which is really useful for just getting into little gaps and recesses like that. So get that one off with my fingers now, and then I'll go around the other side and do the one. Right, very gently remove the handlebars, making sure I don't lose the washers and spacers. That's good. And I just need to lay them back out the way like that, so I can now get to these nuts and take the fork springs out. So the Allen key you need to undo the top of the forks here is 7/15, so I've got a 7/16 socket here. Drop that in there and get my driver on that, and I can undo that and the one at the other side here as well. Okay, so that's the, so bring that over. That's the cap off, and then I can lift the spring out. Now obviously oil is going to come out with the spring, so need to make sure that I catch that and don't make a mess everywhere, so get myself a little bowl to stand it in. Got some paper towels here to catch any drips, and just pull that spring out. And you can see that's not a progressive spring, it's just a regular spring start. So just going to stand that in the bowl down here where it's not going to make a mess. It's not actually that much oil coming off it. Right, now I can go around, do the same at the other side. The cap off and get the spring out. Okay, good stuff. So that's both my springs out. So what I'm going to do now is undo the bottom of the forks, and then I can drain the oil out and I can disassemble the forks, and then I'll take the mudguard off once I've got the Allen key set out the bottom. It's just easier to keep everything gripped and aligned if you leave the mudguard on to the last minute. Right, I'll undo the drain plug here and drain the oil out of this fork leg. There's 190cc in each leg, this model, which is very helpfully labelled on the little plastic cap that goes at the top, and if you can see that, it says 190cc, just to remind you how much you're going. It says in my manual that you can use automatic transmission fluid oil or fork oil. Also, I know some people just use regular engine oil in there, but I'm going to use fork oil. I don't know what grade was in here before. I mean, I don't even know if this is fork oil in here, but I'm going to go for a slightly heavier grade of fork oil, not the standard weight. I changed, last time I did the forks on my Harley Davidson, I changed to 15 weight fork oil, and I found that much better, so I'm going to try the same on the Bonneville and see how I get on with that. And if it's no good, it's no big deal, I can always just change it back to some lighter. This is not a huge job. The next job is to undo the damper rods inside the forks here. Then I can remove the lower part of the fork to replace the fork seal. Now there's an Allen key at the bottom. I've got the Allen wrench here, which is what size it is. It's 7/32 Allen key at the bottom here, which you undo in order to remove the damper rod. It's just secured at the bottom there. But what I find is you try and undo it, and the whole damper unit swivels round. So you need to just hold it at the top. So what I've got here is I've got a socket. It's a 32nd size, I think, on a very long extension, which I then thread down the top of the, only got that on just because it really doesn't turn this top bit. Just got that on there just to hold it. So I can feel that's engaged on the nut at the top of the damper rod now. So with that engaged, I can now go to the bottom and unscrew the Allen key. There's a 7/32 Allen key in the bottom here. A bit difficult to get the camera lined up so you can see. So need a bit more leverage on that. with this in now. Yeah, it's loose enough now. So at this point now I've got everything undone to disassemble the forks. I'm going to remove the mudguard now. I've just left the mudguard on till now just so it's holding everything stable for me, so I can remove the mudguard and then each leg will come out separately. Good then. Oh, must have got that one. Okay, so whilst I've got my mudguard off, you'll notice you'll notice that my mudguard's actually been painted, and it's painted on the inside as well. But whilst I've got it off, what I'm going to do is clean the inside of it very thoroughly, and then just spray some wax oil inside it, and that helps protect it from corrosion from all the crud and stuff that's thrown up off the road. Might as well do that whilst I've got it off. I can give it a real good clean inside, wipe it down with some spirit, and then put the wax oil on it. So now I should be able to remove the fork leg lowers. Now there might be a bit of oil comes out of here, so what I'm going to do is just be cautious. I'll get my bowl underneath to catch any fork oil that comes out. But, there we are. That's easy enough, so I can get to the seals to replace them now. So I don't need to remove that anyway. Take all the oils out of there. And the left hand leg. There we are. Good. Right. So let's go over to the workbench and change these fork seals out. I have to say these fork seals look to be in pretty good condition to me actually, but they are weeping slightly, so, and I have bought some new ones, so I'll whip them out and put some new ones in, but I can't see any damage. Maybe the springs are just a little bit weak or something like that, but put them in the vise to hold them in the soft jaws, and then I can get a bit more leverage on here and pull these out, these old ones out. Just being careful not to damage the fork legs in any way as I pull that out. Good, it's easy enough. As I say, they're good tight fit that, so I can't see any problem with that, any damage around there. Right, as I've got this in the vise, I might as well tap the new fork seal in there. Just give it a bit of a clean out there. Good stuff. Okay, just going to push that in, and I've got a appropriate sized socket here, large socket, just to act as a driver. I'll tap that in very gently with the mallet till it sits flush. Lovely. That's flush all the way around. Good. Right. That's in. Let's do the other one. So this is the left hand leg. Just hold this in here. I've got it in soft jaws, so you can probably see that there. I'm obviously not clamping it straight onto the vise. Okay. Just get that fork seal out. And that's that one out. Clean round. And get the second new fork seal Just put a tiny little bit of lube around it, just to help it slide in, but just the slightest little bit, just from a bit of the fork oil that's in there still. Just so it slides in nicely without damaging. So these are the hard type seals. I have seen some soft style ones on some of the bikes, but these are the hard style ones. So and just very gently ease that in evenly. Yep, that's sitting flush all the way around. Lovely, it's great. Right, before I put these fork legs back on, just going to make sure I don't damage the seals by putting a bit of grease around the inside of the seals there, just to help lubricate, and I'll put a little bit of grease on here as well. I'll do that on both legs. Just to make sure that slides on nicely. Good, right. So, inside this lower fork leg at the bottom, there is actually a Dougherty washer in there that acts as an oil seal from the Allen kit at the bottom. So just got to make it's still in there. Just got to make sure that that is lined up correctly before I reinsert the Allen key. So I'll just tap it out and then, oh, there it is. So probably can't see that, but there's this little Dougherty washer there, goes in the bottom. So what I've got to do is drop that back down the fork leg now to get it lined up with the hole before I reinsert my Allen bolt at the bottom. So let's see if I can do a direct launch down there. Oh yeah, that was lucky, I think. Went straight in. There's a little recess at the bottom then, it just went straight in first time. I'm just checking there's a little seal on the bottom of the Allen bolt there as well, and that looks okay. Right, so let's slide this on. There is actually just on the bottom of the fork slider here, there is a little lip which just helps you ease it on. You know, makes it easier to just slip the seals over without damaging them. Right, press that up. Right, what I'm hoping now is that that's pressing the Dougherty washer in place. I won't dislodge it, and that can reinsert my Allen bolt. Yeah, that's going in. Good. Actually, that's nipped up tight as well. So what I'll do is, I've got my extension bar here with a socket. I'll feed that down the top of the fork leg, and that will just hold the damper rod in place whilst I nip that up tight. Right, so it's good. Let's see what I'm doing here. There we are. That's good actually. That's gone up tight now. Just struggling to see what I'm doing down here on the bottom. Right, just nip that up. I'm holding you probably can't see it from the camera, but I'm holding the top as well, just to stop it from spinning. And that is nipped up tight. So that's that leg done. So I've got my little Dougherty washer at the bottom there. So I've greased up around my fork seal and I've greased around the leg. So there's the little lip here as it goes on, which just helps you ease it on nicely. And then I'm going to slide that all the way up until I feel it engaged with the damper rod, which is there, which should then hold me down in place. Get me Allen key. That's got a little seal on it there, on the Allen bolt, just to stop the oil coming out the bottom. So I'll feed this into the bottom now. So as with the other leg, I'll feed this socket down from the top just to hold the damper rod steady, stop it from swivelling as I tighten up. That's it, I feel that's engaged on the top of the damper rod. So now, just a bit fiddly seeing my Allen head, there it is. That's tight, just swap it to nip it up. Holding the top as well, so I can just nip that up tight. Maybe just one more go on that. Can comfortably go just a little bit tighter than that one. Yeah, I'm happy with that. That's good. Right, good. So that's the fork legs back together. I'm going to drop the springs in and then put some oil in. Good. Right, let's just clean all the surplus grease off from around here. Fine, I'm going to slide those. I'll press those into place in a minute. I'll push the springs back in. Got my springs here. Now these aren't progressive springs, so they're the same either end, so it doesn't really matter which way up they go. Drop that back in. And the same with the other side. Good, and then I need to measure out my fork oil. Now this is the fork oil that I'm using. It's the same fork oil that I put in my Harley, so it's Motul, and it's 15W, which is slightly heavier weight. I think you would probably normally use 10. Some people use 5, you can use 5, but I'm going to see how I get on with this. I just feel that the front end could do with being just a little bit stiffer. If I'm not happy with this, I may actually upgrade the springs and put some progressive springs in. Be interesting to see. Once I've got the brakes sorted out, so the brakes are working more effectively, then I'll see how much dive I'm getting on the front end when I brake, because that's really the issue for me. So first job, the easiest way is, because I've already got this in the workshop, is to try some slightly heavier oil. If that doesn't work, as I say, I can upgrade the springs. Okay, so I've got a fairly accurately calibrated measuring jug here, so I've measured out 190 millilitres. To avoid spillage, I'm using my little funnel. Okay, that's the first filled up. Just leave that a minute to run down. Right, I think that's fine. Good. And now I can reinsert the cap in the top. There's not really that much pressure because the spring sits flush with the top of the thread there, so it doesn't take much pressure just to engage the thread, but obviously you've got to be careful not to cross thread it as you start to tighten it. But I can feel, if you do it by hand, I feel that's going in absolutely fine. So I'll just get my ratchet driver to tighten that down. Good. Right, just knit that up. I'm going to recheck that once I've got the bike back together and I've got the mudguard and the wheel back in, I'll recheck that. So just to remind myself, so I don't forget, I'm not going to put the plastic cap back in there. So I remember just to recheck that, make sure that's fine. Okay, so go around and fill up the other side now. Good. And replace the cap. And again, I'm just starting the thread with my fingers to make sure that it doesn't cross thread. There's not much pressure required on it at all, really. That's fine, that's going in nicely. Then I'll tighten it down with my ratchet. And with the other side, I just pinched it up, but as with the other side, I'll leave the plastic cap off just to remind myself to check that again once I've got everything reassembled. Right, so I'm going to refit the mudguard, refit the handlebars, and then I'm ready to put the front wheel back in again. But essentially, regard the forks and the fork seals, that's the job done. So I hope you found that interesting. I hope you found it useful if you've been following along with me, and thank you very much. See you again next time.